welcome to Your Unpaid Therapist.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Your Unpaid Therapist.
I'm not getting paid. I didn't even get a donut.
Oh, that's sexy though. I like it.
I'm Valerie Milagros Ortiz.
I don't know.
I am your host, Ali Kona. She's away. Brad Ford.
This is Your Unpaid Therapist. Shoo-wah, cha-cha. Like, I want to start this with a ditty, but I just don't know of a good ditty. Hey, big spender! Has nothing to do with the show. Hi, everybody. Hello, how are you? Welcome to Your Unpaid Therapist. Oh, I just made that make sense. Hold on. You're not spending any money because we're unpaid. Welcome.
Love it. She keeps us on her toes, y'all.
I mean, speaking of toes, who are you? What's your name?
My name is Valerie. I hope y'all know my name. And actually, we also hope you know our guest name because she's been on the show before. And if you can't see, you'll hear very soon. But tell us a little bit about her.
Okay, so today you've seen, you've heard, you've known her from before past episodes. Returning to us live today is Miss Yael Teagle. Wah, 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 wah.
Hello.
I don't have two hands. That was me clapping my hand against my face. Welcome.
So much, y'all, for coming back. Our last episode was amazing. You hit some amazing points. If you guys haven't heard it, you have to listen back because it was just so insightful, inspiring, all the things. But today, what are we chatting about, Aliko?
Well, I wanted to talk today about standards, how your standard should be the only one that counts because we so often allow other people's standards to dictate our life. And who better to talk about that with than Yael because she has such wonderful standards for herself. And I feel like, Yael, you march to the beat of your own drum. You don't give a fluff what anybody else thinks. And so I definitely want to have you chime in on this topic. But first, we have to never have I ever.
Never have I ever. Never have I
Yael, you
ever.
first.
Do you want to go for color? Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm picking
Yes,
again.
you are.
I'm gonna go with pink again because I like the color pink.
Oh, wait. That's blue. Okay. Pink. Never have I ever quit a job.
That's you.
Oh,
Job?
yeah.
Well, I can't wait to
feel
hear
like you
about this.
did it with flair, the way you just said that. So go ahead.
So okay, I definitely quit a job. Let me preface this story. I was at this place. I was really excited to work there. It turned out to not be great. That happens a lot. And I decided I was going to quit. And the only thing that stopped me from quitting the day I decided was that I was moving. And so you need to have an income to move. So I kept the job till I found a place and signed the paperwork. And then I gave my 2 weeks notice and I said, this is my notice. And unless you would like me to leave now, I can also leave now. Whatever you want works best. And they were like, we're going to keep you for 2 weeks. And I said, fine. And they went, so where are you going? And I went, oh, I have no idea. And they went, oh, you would rather not have a job than work here. And I went, yeah, correct.
Dang. That's awesome.
I love your honesty.
Thank you.
I've never quit a job.
Thanks.
I'm like, I'm not a quitter, which is stupid because then I'll be unhappy. But I'm like, I'm not a quitter. And then I get kicked out. So, yeah. Val?
Yeah, I quit a job, but it wasn't even like I quit. It was just kind of like I stopped doing it. My first job ever that wasn't performing, and I think I've talked about this on the podcast, was I used to sell cutlery, door to door, mind you, like what? Amazing cutlery. I would still sell that shit. I'm selling it to you now. But I didn't have a car. Like me and my friend shared a car to do this, and you're not supposed to like go on each other's like showings. But I was in college and it was just like, let's sell knives. And then I couldn't do it anymore because the car situation and just life, college. So that was that.
Right.
Let's move
Yes.
on. Nothing too exciting. Okay, I'm gonna pick. Never have I ever thought my vibrator was haunted. I have so many questions. No. Uh, never ever. I no. Y'all?
Yes.
What?
Why? But why?
Hold on.
Okay.
How? I want to know how.
Great,
Why?
great questions. All excellent questions. And it turns out I'm not alone in this. Um, there's okay. So currently, the like style of charging for vibrators are these like magnet chargers. So like it's a plug to the wall, but the other side is a magnet.
Okay.
And the side that connects to the toy, for whatever reason, even if the toy is supposedly waterproof, if it gets water in it, it messes up the mechanics inside of the toy. So the toy will turn on by itself, not be able to turn off,
What?
not be able to change any settings.
Oh,
So
man.
all of a sudden, my toy just turned on,
Nope.
woke me up in the middle of the night.
You know what? I'd like to think your vibrator is not haunted. I'd like to think you have a female ghost in your room house, and female ghost is just trying to like have some fun. And is
You
using
would prefer the vibrator's not haunted. The ghost is borrowing my vibrator.
Ew.
That's what you prefer?
Ew.
that is my final statement on this story.
Dude, I think I told you guys this story and I don't remember if it was on the podcast or not, but so I'll say it really fast. And by the way, my answer is no. But Jamila Jamil, who is an actress that was on The Good Place, she never curled her hair. She was a tomboy, but her roommate was a girly girl, and she got the audition for The Good Place and was like, I should probably, look snazzy. So she went into her roommate's bathroom, grabbed her portable curling iron, brought it to her room, wrapped her hair in it, turned it on, and she's like, it's broken. And later on told her friend, she's like, your curling iron like sucks. And she's like, I don't have a cordless curling iron. And she's like, it just vibrated. It didn't even do anything. And she was like, oh my God, that's my vibrator. I was like, oh, like, could you imagine putting your hair on? Okay, that's all.
So yes, we can.
Next question.
I assume she cleaned it.
I hope so.
Exactly. That's why I was in the bathroom. That's what that makes sense.
Let's go with that one very lonely yellow card.
Okay. Never have I ever been walked in on while having sex.
No, thank God. You?
Yeah, that's a no for me. Thank God too.
I'm very grateful to finally have one that I can say no to.
Yes. Man, that would be bad.
Yeah.
That would
Unless
be
you count the
bad.
dog.
I mean, I guess you could.
Yeah. Anyways, all right. Well, moving right along, let's get into today's topic. Okay, so the reason again I brought this up is I was actually talking to you ladies about just constantly having the pressure to live up to someone else's standards, and I'm super guilty of it, whether it's like my parents having certain standards and forcing me to have certain grades or forcing me to study certain things growing up, right? Like, you are going to major in communications and these are the electives you're taking. And so there was no make decisions on your own. So when I finally did move out on my own, I did not know how to make a decision for the life of me. Like little things, but even still, like I could not decipher like what was good, what was bad, or I was making decisions if I did make them based on what I thought they would approve of, which is not living your best life, right? So I just would be curious to know, like, if you guys have ever felt pressured to live under a certain standard or what have you, and what you did to navigate through that.
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking up the book, The 5 Levels of Attachment. I don't know if you guys have read it, but when I read this book, I was an adult and I was like, whoa, just because it really made me break down. Basically, the book is giving you attachment styles on things that you agreed on as like a child or by society, and trying to like help you navigate the things that you said, yes, I actually do agree to this philosophy or this thought or this way of living, or actually no, like that was placed upon me by my parents or by society or blah 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 blah. And breaking that down throughout the book was really interesting and so helpful for me, because I know, which a lot of the stuff I knew, especially from my childhood growing up, Puerto Rican, strong, um, I don't know, over, what do you, when they don't let you do anything?
Overprotective.
I'm
Hello,
over,
amen. In the same choir.
yeah, incredibly overprotective, parents, da da da. Um, yeah, there were so many things that I'm like, oh, this wasn't something that I would have agreed to. Like, this isn't a thought that I would at this age, at right now, as a woman, I'd say yes. I agreed to this label. I agreed to this thought. I agreed to this opinion. So I highly recommend that book. So yes, 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 all the things to
Yeah. I'm
standards.
sorry.
That book sounds fascinating. But I was raised, I guess, very differently, in that I feel like, aside from my mother, who was raised religious and is quite religious and more conservative and traditional, and has placed this idea that I should be married and have children. Sorry, I should be married to a man and have children. And that is very important to her. Um, but other than that, I felt like my life, I was given the freedom to do what I wanted and explore what I wanted. And so, differently than what you were saying, Alikona, that like when I became an adult and was given the freedom to make my own decisions, I became hyper independent and now struggle in terms of like finding a partner, in that, I don't intend to have children. I'm not even sure that marriage is something that I want. And the gender of my partner is, whoever they are is good for me. So this whole idea that now I am what I call unconventional. I am not doing what everyone else or what society or what my mother expects me to do. And so I find it difficult now to find a partner who's willing to be with somebody who doesn't expect. I don't need anything from them. I don't expect anything from them. And from what I hear, men don't like that when they're not needed. Um,
But
so I found that I have the opposite problem, where I think I'm too independent.
Yeah, I totally think that's a thing. And I was thinking that you, Ellie Kona, right? You could probably relate with not wanting children. And she says all the time, she's like, I'm not going to be an old lady walking down the aisle. Like,
yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I mean,
so
sorry, go ahead, Val.
no, that's it. I'm just, y'all can relate on that part.
Totally. And I mean, I've
Maybe not
been fortunate enough, and it might be
lady.
just because where we live, like being in LA and being in the entertainment industry, it's not asked a lot of me as far as like, do you want to have kids? Do you not? I actually saw an Instagram post with somebody and she was like, don't shame people for not wanting to have kids because that's their choice. Don't be like, oh, you don't have any kids? Why? It's like you don't walk up to somebody with kids and you're like, ooh, you have kids? Why? But
I do now.
oh.
I do. because everyone does that, because everyone comes at me and is like, ooh, like not people in my actual life, but family, extended family, cousins, whatever. You're not married. Ooh, you don't have kids. You're getting up there. Like, you're not going to have kids. Ooh, that seems bad. And I go, you have kids? Why? I have freedom. I have disposable income.
Right.
I can do whatever I want.
Right. Oh my God, that just triggered something. So my mom the other day, she was talking to me about, so those of you who know, like I house sit often, like house/dog sit. And when I'm not doing that, a lot of times my work takes me other places. Like I've gone on tour. I plan on going tour later this year. And my mom will be like, so where are you at today? Well, I'm at such and such's house. And then on Wednesday, I'm going here. God, that's terrible. Why? Because I mean, you're just never in one place long enough. I'm like, doesn't bother me. Yeah, but it's just really not good because you don't have a routine. And I'm like, I do have a routine. It's just that it's in different locations, and I'm cool with that. Like, I love seeing different places, and I appreciate it if you wouldn't tell me that it's terrible because it doesn't meet your standards for your life. You're not comfortable with being a nomad, for lack of better words. For you, that's terrible. It's not for me. So don't pass that judgment upon me and make it seem like my lifestyle is negative because it's not for you.
Exactly. And, I think our parents do that often. Maybe not everybody's parents, but it's, I could see my dad being like sometimes like, if you would have just, if you should have gone to school, and maybe just gotten a degree in something else. And I'm like, I'm good, Dad. Like, and I know it comes from, again, that protection, that worry. Like, are they going to be okay? Da, da, da. But I'm like, man, I've already lived here 20 years and I'm good. So I'm going to stay good. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
I feel like that's.
Can I ask?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I want to ask Valerie because you've been working in this industry for a long time, and
Mm.
you are successful in this industry. Alicona, not saying you're not successful, but do you think there's a point you will get to? And I guess Alicona, you could also is there a point you can get to that your parents will be like, I no longer worry because you have reached whatever they deemed as success or stable or happiness?
Yeah, I mean, great question. I think honestly, anytime I've been on a show, they're fine. It's when the show ends that they're like, what are they gonna, what's she gonna do? So, and luckily I've been on a few shows and I've had those guest stars or, when the film comes, they're like, oh, okay. It's just the downtimes, it's the strike that they're like, ay, Dios mío, whatever you need, mamita. And I'm like, I'm good. Thank you. Luckily I'm not like don't have all the Louis purses and the red bottoms and that's not my style, thank God, because then I'd be worried right about now. But I think when I'm working they're good. Like I don't know. I'd be curious actually. I'm gonna ask my mom. But I think they just worry when I'm not working. I don't know if there's like a when she's here. Yeah, what about you?
Well, a few things. One, because my mom is just a natural born worrier. And I'm like, keep your worries to yourself. Don't put them on anybody else. A. B, I'm fine. C, she would consider me successful, I think, when I am quote unquote famous, when I am on a TV show that is a series regular. But it'd be like when I was
But those
quote unquote rich or could take care of people, that's when I'd be considered successful.
Yeah. What about for your family, Yale? Is
I
there
think they really struggled up until like I think last year with especially with just defining to people what I do. So people would ask them what I do and they couldn't explain it, and now they can. And so I don't feel like I'm doing anything differently now than I used to be doing, but now I feel like they're like she is successful and I can describe what she does. Although my mother continues to remind me that I will never know a fulfilled, happy life if I don't have a partner and children.
what's interesting? My dad believes the same thing. He would have these conversations with me about my brother and who he's dating, and he's like, "Well, what do you think about that person?" And I'm like, "She's good with him. Like, they kind of challenge each other. They have a lot in common. The girl he's dating has a kid. She doesn't want any more kids. She's done." And my dad's like, I don't know, because she doesn't want any more kids. And that's not good for Hector because, he's going to get old. And then what? Who's going to help him? Who's going to take care of him?
Dude,
And I'm like, Dad,
I love.
that's not for everybody.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm like, ooh, biting at the. Because my mom says the same thing, like, who's going to take care of you? But it's so interesting because I feel like we as a culture and a society have evolved so much, and are unfortunately because our parents are the age that they are, they're still in a very much an old school mentality, and that is go to college, get a degree, get married, have kids. But the problem with today's society, not problem, but is it's changed so much. Your degree is going to land you in debt. That's what that shit's going to do. Unless you're going to be a doctor or something that is very specific in your trade where you do need to go to college to learn those skills. A lot of times we go to college and we don't use that skill in our jobs or whatever, and there's people out there now that everything is online and you can have your own online store, you can be a social media star. There's so many different avenues to make money, and everybody's figuring out that it's best to be an entrepreneur and not work for somebody else. Whereas our parents are like, get a job, get a 401k, have those kids. And it's like, but why? Like, you don't have to have a child. You don't have to. And this is I'm going to get on my soapbox.
Get on it.
Girl, I'm
Hell yeah.
on it. I've jumped on it. And so
Ready.
it's very much also not to like dig at men, because men and women want to have kids, but like it always gets to me when they're like, I have to have a kid and I'm going to name the child after me so I can pass down my name. And it's like, can you please get over yourself and your ego? If that's why you're having kids, to pass on your legacy and your blah, 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 blah. Like, I get it. If you have like a yearning desire to have a child, go do it. But you don't have to do that. I can't tell you how many people have children when they're not in a good space and place, familial wise or financially. And then now you're raising this kid in poverty and in a home with a lot of fighting. And it's like, you're doing so much damage to this poor kid who just came into the world and now they're living in a tumultuous life. Like, it'd be so much better if you were starting from a place of, I don't know. I could go on forever.
Mhm.
I just want to piggyback off that, because what I hear a lot of, specifically a lot from men, is they want to have a kid. I've not been hearing men say, I want to raise a kid. I also don't hear a lot of people who they want to get married and have kids. And I'm like, okay, that's the rest of your life now. The rest of your life is another human being you're responsible for.
Yeah.
And I see so many times, and I'm sure that your audience also knows a couple where she is raising the child and the father is there. She is raising the child and he shows up sometimes.
Mhm.
Why would I ever want to have an offspring that I have to handle, and then also a grown man that I have to handle? Why would I want that?
First of all, I love that you called it an offspring. Looking awesome.
What my friend calls it, a crotch fruit.
A crotch root?
Crotch fruit.
Crotch fruit.
I've
Oh.
also heard
I've heard alien.
sex trophy,
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That
spawn, you know.
exactly. Yeah, all of those things. You know, interestingly, I think probably the only one in the trio here that I've always wanted to be a mom. Something I always saw for myself as a kid. I was married before, thought I would have had a kid way back when. That didn't work out. Was in a long relationship. Thought I would have had a kid with this person. That didn't work out. And when I started dating again, I was super anti men who already had kids. I was like, you know, I was doing them apps, y'all. And if they had a kid, I was like, So I was like, no, thank you. Okay. And then I finally, I was just like, fuck it. Let me just, let me give it a try. And it wasn't that bad. And I was like, okay, like I could do this. Fast forward, I ended up with the man I am dating now. And it's interesting because I'm like, I actually prefer this because I know how he is as a dad and he's freaking awesome. And to be honest, and I've told him this, I think you're probably a better dad that at this point in my life, I think I could be a mom because the patience that this man has is just like, I don't even know how. Like, where did you get it from? He has his daughter 50-50 and he's so good. And there's times where I'm like, ugh, or I'm like sleepy or I'm tired or, there's a little tantrum happening and he's amazing with it. And I'm like, you know what? Like with him, I could have a kid and I would be successful. Without him, before him, I would go to like hang out with friends who had kids and their kids are going cuckoo bananas. And I'm like, yo, I cannot wait to get home alone in this quiet space that is impeccably clean, So it kind of worked out for me. And, who knows if I'll be able to have a kid or not. But I'm glad that I was able to see that David's a great dad. Makes a difference.
I was gonna say, Val, let me tell you, I feel like you lucked out. I feel like that's the perfect situation, right? Because
and I would have never thought that before.
Well, here's the thing, because I am that. Now, I would say vain. Maybe it's a combination of vain and insecure. But I'm like, yo, you didn't have to get pregnant. Like nothing about pregnancy seems awesome to me at all. Some people think it's wonderful and they love it. But I'm like, nah, man, I work way too hard for this. Like, I'm not trying to like no. And so it's like someone had the kid for you, so you don't even have to worry about it. And because it's 50-50, you still have almost like, for lack of better words, a permanent babysitter. So you are guaranteed alone time with your man to focus on your relationship. And then half the other week, then you guys get the family life. So to me, it's like the best of both worlds.
Yes, all of that. Yes. But I think I'm as vain as you are. And I don't want to like get my stretch marks on my stomach and all that shit either. I know that'll be maybe a struggle, but at the same time, because it is really hard to have a baby, if I am granted that gift, I'm also not that vain where I'm going to be like, oh, look at me. Like, I also understand the miracle that that would be at my age, blah, blah, blah. So I know I would embrace it with everything that was given to me, right? Yeah, but I understand those thoughts. And what I love is people who know what they don't fucking want. Because there's plenty of people there just like being all willy-nilly and just living life like whatever happens. And like, I guess that's good. I applaud that freedom, because maybe I'm very, calculated. So I do admire people who are a little willy-nilly, like good for you. But when it comes to bringing children into this life, like, we need to do a test to be able to like drive, but like just anybody can have a child. I'm just saying.
You guys are saying great things. I agree with you both so much. Valerie, you were talking about the people who can live their life willy-nilly. As Alicona knows, I'm very goal oriented. I set a goal and I achieve it. And not wanting kids, I've seen people on dating apps where they're like unsure, and I'm like, you're unsure. You're in your 40s. You decide. Also, anyway, not the point. Point is, I was talking about goal oriented.
Actually, I know. I'm not living and dating that person anymore. I don't know.
I think I don't know is a scapegoat to get more people to swipe, because I don't know means you could be good for the girl who wants kids, but I don't know could be good for the girl who's like, I don't want kids.
True.
Mm-hmm. Anyways,
I agree. I agree that it feels like a manipulative way to get both. Sure. But also, as somebody who doesn't want kids, if I'm not getting invested into somebody who is then going to turn around and be like, oh, by the way, I wanted kids.
Yes. Or the opposite. Or, yeah, by the way, you thought I wanted kids, but psych, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put you on blast a little bit, but I feel like you're comfortable, so that's why I can talk about whatever I want with you. But we've talked about too, because we've only had one other person on our podcast say this, but you are open to polyamory, and we've had a male come on and say that, and usually I feel like it's the women who are like, I don't know how I feel about that. Like,
and for anybody who doesn't know what that is, what is that?
So polyamory is when you are open to dating or being in relationships with multiple partners. And so it is the opposite of monogamy. Monogamy is 2 people in a couple, and polyamory is more people in a couple. I am open to the idea of polyamory. I'm personally much more comfortable with ethical non-monogamy, which is different from polyamory. So polyamory is where you would date other people, and ethical non-monogamy is where you are you usually would have a primary partner, that is 2 people dating, and they can sleep with other people. And the 2 people dating can discuss that and have guidelines and rules. And all of these scenarios, all relationship types require communication between partners and making sure that you're all on the same page. I once was with a friend, and he was telling me that he had a girlfriend and she wanted to be polyamorous, and he said no, and then she slept with someone else. And I went, that's cheating. That's not polyamory. That's just cheating.
Yeah.
And so that's the big difference, right? Is that it's about communication and you and your partners agreeing to it. And yes, I am open to more so ethical non-monogamy. I think personally, if I am dating someone and putting in the emotional effort, the fact that they would then go and like look for other people to spend their emotional time with and their like take on dates and things, that would bother me. Less so if they need an outlet for either something sexual that I don't do, or, they were out at a club and met somebody and wanted to hook up that night. I get that.
And
I love the openness about that. Somebody I'm really, really close to was in a ethical non-monogamous relationship, and it was really interesting to me because, again, like, I- outside looking in, it could feel like super judgmental and stuff. But I'm like, a lot of times, especially from the few people that I've known that have been either in that or a throuple, um, they are the best communicators. I mean, sometimes more so than just like a regular old monogamous relationship between two people. Like, the way they communicate, their understanding for each other's needs, it's pretty detailed, the respect. And it doesn't sound like that when you hear like, oh, but y'all let each other sleep that bad. But everybody's on the same page and everybody's talking about all these things that, from what I see, sometimes just monogamous relationships, I feel like things like that aren't talked about. Needs aren't met because people aren't sharing the things that may be missing. And so then there's people are taking each other for granted. Then there's resentment being built, and none of this stuff is talked about because you're just kind of like, oh, well, you're with me and I'm with you, and that's it. And it's like, okay, but then there's human wants and needs and things like that. So I actually really respect it because the amount of communication that needs to be had to have these things be successful is a lot. There's so much communication involved.
Totally. You really captured it so beautifully, Valerie.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of conversations with, like I said, a really close friend of mine who was in a throuple, and another really family member who's been in a few ethical non-monogamous relationships. And I was like, yeah, that's so interesting.
I'd be curious to know, Yale, at what you don't tell me like your age like that, but I mean, like, how, at what point in your life, how about that, did you decide that this is something I want to experiment with and this is for me?
So to be fair, it's something I'm open to, right? So I think I could have a partner, and if monogamy is what we need to do, I think that is definitely something I am capable of. I've been in monogamous relationships. I have no problem with that. But I do remember the first time I brought it up was I was a TA for a human sexuality class in college. And I had said, I don't remember what the discussion was, but no one was chiming in with anything. And so I was like, I'll speak and maybe it'll get the conversation going. And at the time I still thought I wanted kids. And so I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to have a husband and we're both going to have a girlfriend, and then like she'll help raise the kids. And that got the conversation in the class going. And a girl was like, that's how I was raised. And so,
wow.
yeah, so I was like, this is fascinating this was just an idea that came to me that I shared to get people talking. And then I learned more about it and learned that it is a thing. And I think that the future is definitely not monogamous. I think that with the amount of people who cheat, but also like the fact that we live longer lives now, the idea of being with one person for so long may not be actually possible. Not saying that there aren't people who do it. I'm just saying, when you think about it, humans need connection. We need, sexual connection, emotional connection. And sometimes different people give us different things. That's why you have friend groups. You don't have just the one friend. So I personally believe that the future is definitely polyamorous. I think dating apps alone in LA, the amount of people on them that have like poly or ENM on their profile, like I see it on everybody's profile these days. And then there are just apps that are specifically for that, which is a whole other thing. Anyway.
You know what's fascinating about that though is if you think about it, like going back in the day, that's how start over, Alikona. Let's start and make some sense out of this. So if you think about way back when, during like the ancient Roman times or anything prior to, orgies were a normal thing. It was just a thing. You had multiple wives, or you had your husband and then you had your mister or your you were a king and you had your mistresses. Like nobody thought twice. And at the same time, homosexuality wasn't really like, no. Like that you're in an orgy. Like there's going to be some dude on dude action or some lady on lady action. There was no scrutiny about it. And I don't know what happened between then and now. Well, I do religion, but
Religion.
yeah. But it's just interesting because we never used to have these standards. Woohoo! Taking it back to standards. Yes. We never had these certain standards or societal expectations until I think religion came along, and then all of a sudden we were like, you can't do that. That's all. It's not a question.
It's so interesting that totally. I was about to say this. You're totally right that historically we were not monogamous, and then monogamy came in with religion, but also the marriages were business arrangements, and so the idea that we now have this like this societal expectation of you get married to one person and you stay together forever, and it's about you said your vows under God when it was originally a business arrangement, this is how you made your kids and now you have to stay together forever. That just does it. It's not sustainable, and it also doesn't make any sense.
Right. Well, also too, that's like back in the day, they would marry you to your cousin just so you could maintain power over your country, like when you're royal. I'm like, that, first of all, is nasty. And I don't know how many of those couples actually coupled and did what they did, but
they did.
Game of Thrones.
Anyway.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I think I'm just way too jealous to be able to successfully be in a non-monogamous relationship. And even though I've been married, divorced, I've, dated and stuff like that, there is, I do still have that old fashioned idealistic vision, fantasy of like finding my husband and then having the kid and then happily ever after. Although I have luckily a very realistic idea of marriage because I've been there, done that, and haven't done it again yet. So I like that because at least I wouldn't go into it again with this like false sense of fantasy or happily ever after. But I do want it.
And that's okay.
I do want my man to be my man.
But I think that it's so great that that about yourself. And that's wonderful. Like I had a friend who was trying to have one night stands and she'd get hurt emotionally every time. I said, girl, it's okay to not be able to do that. You just have to know that about you. You don't have to do it.
Yeah.
So that you're jealous. That's okay. It.
Be jealous or that like I'd be super emotionally attached to like everybody.
Yeah.
Like I love you and you, oh my goodness, it'd be too much.
And look, just because I talk about it too doesn't necessarily mean that I'm about it. Like I don't think I could do polyamory either, just because same thing, I'd be jealous or my feelings would just be hurt if I found out. And obviously the key to a great polyamorous relationship is communication. So if my dude was like, hey, there's this other girl that I'm feeling and I'd like to do X, Y, and Z, I'd be like, but wait, what do I not have that she has? Like, what's wrong with me? And I would just be thinking that I'm just not enough. And I think that's what would be the struggle for me.
There is a world, and when I was talking to this family member and like my friend who was in the throuple, I'm like, there's this world that and like maybe in a different lifetime, I'm going to be like confident as fuck that I could like do that, and be like, okay, go have fun, do you. And meanwhile, blah, 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 I got this person over here. Like, you know what I mean? The idea of it, I'm like, that's awesome. Like, I wish I could wire my brain to do that just because there's just a sense of freedom that I feel like when I hear y'all talk about it. I'm like, yeah, that sounds cool. Like, that sounds very liberating. That's what it sounds like. Very the opposite of how structured I grew up and how structured my brain works. And sometimes that's very exhausting and just annoying to myself. Like, damn, like just live a little, loosen up, So there's a part of me that maybe in another world, I'm going to be able to just confidently be like, yes, whatever.
Val's a
She's gorgeous.
hussy.
Let's go for it. Yeah, I'm just gonna, and Ali Coda, I'm like super the latest bloomer of the bloomers, and
Look,
so in another world, I'm gonna be a little something.
I was a little late too. It's all good. I don't think I could, and maybe Yale, you can speak to this, but it's like I've never been that person. It's like I can sleep with two people at the same time. Like I don't understand how dudes could do that.
Literally at the same time, or you mean like
Yeah, like
two different
two people?
Yeah, two different people. Like this, tonight I'm with Amanda, and then tomorrow I got
you mean
Janet,
sorry.
and then maybe on Friday night I might go see Jackie. Who knows?
Not what I thought you were talking about.
Oh,
that's what I was like. Are you saying threesome, or are you saying two different?
No, two totally different. Like I would feel like a jerk, and B, I don't know. Ew. I would feel that's not passing judgment on anybody else. But also, if you do stuff like that, I feel like you should be honest about it. Like I've been in a relationship with somebody where we were quote unquote talking, but the understanding was we're monogamous, and if at any point we're not, I would love for you to let me know. And they did not let me know, and I got upset because I was like, I'm not saying I expect you to put a ring on it, but at the same time, if we're doing anything that involves intimacy and it's my body, I would appreciate it if you would be honest with me, so then I could then make the decision whether or not I want to engage in any type of sexual activity with you, knowing that potentially you're running around with Billy Bob Joe Sue Ann, and you have this STD in the clap and whatever else you could possibly have, and give it to me.
Sure. Yeah.
This goes back to the conversation about communication, right? Like monogamous or polyamorous, it doesn't matter. You need to communicate with your partner. And if you are not able to have that conversation, you shouldn't be with people. No. Not that partner, just generally. You should, if you cannot tell your person, I want us to only see each other, or I would like to also be seeing other people. If you can't do the bare minimum, then you shouldn't be in relationships. But you need to learn how to open your mouth.
I feel like
not you, your partner.
Men, and I don't want to categorize, not all men are terrible at communication, but as a general statement, a lot of men are not good at communication because they're not taught to be. That's just not how they're raised. And so that's where the problems to me happen in a relationship, whether it's I need X, Y, and Z from you, emotionally, sexually, whatever. I feel like men have such a hard time communicating, and it's almost easier for them to go out and be with somebody else who can put their legs behind their neck or tell them that they have soft hands or whatever the hell it is that they need. It's just easier to go find it somewhere else versus having that difficult conversation with the person that they're with.
I think you're totally right. Society does not teach men how to communicate, how to emote, how to introspect. There are lots of things that we as a society don't let men do. I think that as people who date men, our job then is to remind them this is a place where you can say that. Like, for example, this is not a relationship, like romantic relationship, but my roommate and I, when we moved in together, before we moved in together, we had a conversation, and I said, we need to be able to speak to each other in plain English. I need you to say, I'm mad about this. And we discussed how I don't know how to be subtle, and he doesn't understand subtlety. So it worked out very well for us because we've had conversations where I said, look, I need us to not get emotional or take it as a personal attack when we tell each other something. And so we agreed from the beginning. He leaves dirty dishes in the sink, and he's like, I'm so sorry, I'll get that. And I go, I don't care. And that's not me being passive aggressive and being like, this really bothers me. He knows that I don't care that there are dishes in the sink, and he'll get to it when he gets to it. And the other day we got into a discussion. He said, hey, I feel like you don't take the trash out as much as I do. You need to pull your weight more. And I said, thank you. I can do that. It wasn't a personal attack. He didn't go about it being like, hey, do you think you might get to the trash at some point? He said, I feel this way. Can you do it? And I went, you're right. I can do that. And that is what you need in a romantic relationship as well, is this is what I need. And you need to tell each other, you can say things to me. Mm-hmm. And that, I guess, also puts it on you to be able to handle someone saying something to you.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
wish that guys would do that in terms of, hey, you can tell me X, Y, and Z, or if you're going through something, you could talk to me. And not all men know how to do that. But I want to also say, so I took this class on communication between the sexes. My major was communication. Because my dad chose that for me, by the way, taking it back to standards. And that's what I majored in. So communication between the sexes, growing up, the games that we play teach us how we're going to act in the world, how we're going to communicate to each other in the world, and how we interact with each other in the world. So if you look at girl games, I'm using quotation marks, we have baby dolls, we have kitchen sets, we have cooking games. Everything that we do, you have to talk and communicate. If I'm playing house with you, we're talking about the baby or making stuff together, whether it's baking or whatever. We have to communicate to get the thing done. If you look at boy games, baseball, football, soccer, it's very black and white. Take the ball, put it through the goal. That's it. You have your job, your defense. I'm offense. I'm this specific position. My job is to do X, Y, and Z as a linebacker or a quarterback. This is what I do. I don't often step out of my role. And so then when you grow up, it is for me, the experience I've had with my last relationship was like point blank, like, just tell me. And sometimes I couldn't find the words, but it was just very interesting how they couldn't read between the lines or have those really in-depth communication conversations. Not conversations. We can talk about deep shit all day long, but just the communication ones. Anyway, that's all.
Yeah, I also think sometimes it's just a blatant excuse. I think that because that's been the standard, because that's something that we know men to, not be great communicators or whatever. I honestly believe that in certain cases, and specifically in your last relationship, speaking about this person, there are certain instances and in mine too, that I'm like, no, you're actually very intelligent and very capable. This is a choice. And then they fall into this stereotype of just like, yeah, we don't know any better. And I'm like, but you do. And you can. And you have. And I've seen it. But you're choosing not to in this specific instance.
There was a thing, I don't remember what it's called. I want to say it's like weaponized ignorance or something. I saw it on TikTok. I don't remember what it's called, but it's welfare ignorance. I don't remember. The idea is that men will mess something up and not do it right. Like they'll wash the dishes wrong so that you will come over and just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes to what you're saying, is that like this pretend that that they can't do something or can't communicate, so that they don't have to.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I'm super particular with certain things, anything that involves organization and cleaning. And I've had those instances with my boyfriend now where he's like, well, I'm not going to do it like you do it. And I'm like, but I'm about to teach you so you can't, because I'm not going to do it all the time. So this is how it goes. Yeah, because there's certain things that's just like, cool, like I get it, but then that part's not fair, because then it's like, well, then I'm always going to have to fold the towels this way. Then I'm always going to have to be the one to put all the dishes away or whatever. And he's fabulous. He's amazing. He's like watching, learning, and he participates and helps. And for that, I'm thankful. But I could see in another person them being like, well, then you do it. Like, I'm not going to do it. If you're going to tell me how to do it, and then it's some stupid BS argument.
My biggest pet peeve is, this is just how I am. Okay, well, how you are is not written in stone. Yeah. You can grow, you can expand, you can change. It's a choice.
Yeah. I've actually said that, and I've meant it, but hearing it and now like having these conversations with my boyfriend and stuff, there definitely is certain things. Here's the thing though, and this is do you believe someone's core personality, their core, like who they are at their core, do you think that can change?
Are you asking me or Yale?
Y'all, whoever wants to answer.
This. Yes and no. If it is a trauma response, that is who they are. Can you do some work on it and try to rewire your brain? Yes. Do a lot of people know how? No. It's very difficult. So in that sense, yeah, but can you be a very bad person and one day become a good person with work? Yeah, absolutely. Can you be a good person and turn bad because you've been emotionally scarred and abused? Yes. So I think that, but if you're asking me, like, I'm naturally, when you say core, like, I'm naturally a creative person. That's who I am and that's how I identify with. Does that change about me? Probably
Right.
not.
Yeah.
I think
Go ahead. Yeah.
I think yes. Either something has to happen that changes you, like a trauma or an experience, something like that, or you have to actively try and work at it. I think
Yeah.
change is possible. I think if you think about who you are today and who you were in high school, I
Mhm.
know that there are lots of similarities. There are lots of things that are the same, but I am also a very different person. And I think that if I wanted to have changed, there were things that I would have wanted to change, and I would, if I wanted to, work on them. There are things that happened that I remember that did change me, and I remember looking at myself going, I don't know who I am anymore. This is not me. So yes, I think that people can change to the core, can change. They have to either be forced into it by something that happens or actively want to and work towards it.
Yeah. So I agree with, if there's like a big life-changing event, something traumatic, I agree with that. To give you an example, we're watching a show and there's this girl who's like kind of just dorky and quirky or whatever, and this guy who's dating her is just like, I wish she was sexy, she's so kitty like, and she's always like a giddy, and the way she expresses herself when she's happy is like more childlike than grown woman sexy. And my statement was, that's who she is. Like, she's giddy, quirky girl. Like, that's not sex bomb. And that's who, at her core, she's not sex bomb. So that's kind of what I was talking about.
Mm.
But I don't know, maybe some big traumatic happens, homegirl does something, and something ignites in her that she finds that sex bomb in her, and those little quirky things come out. I don't know. Is that possible? Um, so in that kind of a thing, you're raising your hand on Icona, but let me
Yeah.
finish. In that kind of a thing is where it's like, I think that's who she is. Like, those cute quirks and childlike energy, like, that's her.
I agree in that that's me. Like, I'm that quirky, very
Sort
youthful
yeah.
personality. However, with a certain partner, they can bring out different sides of you slash me. So even
Right. Aside, but that's not who you I but that still wouldn't be you. Like, we all I have a an angry side. I have a bossy side. I have a sexy side, dorky side. But at but do you think you, Ali Kona, could take all those little quirks out and that childlike energy and be those sides as a whole?
oh, and like shove quirky Ali Kona away in a box somewhere and never be her again.
Yeah, like,
Um,
that's not you.
if
So that'd be changing that.
yes. Is it possible? Yes. Would I want to? No. Again, it would be a choice, and it would be an active choice where I'd have to actively, consciously think of my every move and make sure I'm not behaving as such.
So, but
So
then if you're doing that, then is that you? Because it's
No, it's being somebody else.
not natural.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that in this scenario specifically, to change her to no longer be this fun, quirky, bubbly personality, what you want out of it is her to be sexy. What you're going to get out of it is a broken, depressed girl. You're going to ruin this person. But
Yeah.
I think that if she wanted to mature and grow up, and if she wanted to transition into this other person, then she could, and she would have to work towards it. But I don't think she'd want to. This sounds
Yeah.
like, I don't know what show you're watching, but this guy sounds terrible if this is what he wants from her. And don't change her. She's perfect as
Like,
is.
no, it's so, like, the guy was trash. Like, so I was just like, he doesn't deserve her. Because she's like
True.
cute and super patient, whatever, an awesome chick. But I was just like, but see, that's her. And so it came into that whole debate of just like, sometimes with certain, And I agree. Like, I think that's a cop out thing to say, but that's just who I am. Because you could say that for a lot of things and just not show up and not want to change and not want to work out on yourself. But for certain things, like I was talking to my mom because of my whole cleanliness, like organization thing. Like my mom was just saying, she's like, you've been like that since you were a little kid. Like everything was like in the box and like color coordinated and da. And I forgot about that because I always just blamed it on my mom. Like just that's how I grew up. That's how our house was. So that's how I am. And she's like, you were always like that and da. And I was like, yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
But
No.
that's to bring it back to standards, right?
Yeah.
Like that's where you put your line, and you don't move your line for other people. This girl is quirky and fun. She shouldn't be changing it. She doesn't have to change for somebody else. You set your standard, and if people don't meet it, then
Yeah.
they're not the right people for you. Growing up, I was always told that I'm too intimidating. My mother always said that I'm going to scare boys away. And even as a middle schooler, I said to her, any boy that would be scared away from me is not for me. Any man who is intimidated by me is not man for me.
Right.
Absolutely.
I saw this shirt because I've been told this many a times that I'm too much or I'm a lot. And it's like, what was the opposite of that? It was like, well, find somebody who's less than or something like that. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess. But the point is that person who was wearing the shirt was owning the fact that they were too much. And what is too much, really? Like, I think that's the worst thing you could say to somebody is that you are too much or you're a lot. Okay, well,
Yeah, I am.
So
I am. You're not. You can't handle that. That sucks for you.
Or maybe you're not enough.
Yeah.
I would never say that to somebody, but yeah. Anyways.
No, but it's true. It's like, and that's how you find your people, right? Whether it be intimate relationships, your friends, like the people who accept you for who you are, who are like, no, please be more of that. That's why I like you. That's why this works. That needs to. I mean, I think that is what happens. And yeah, these standards, it's tough because they're not going anywhere. I don't think. I mean, especially now with this whole social media stuff, I know there's a lot of movements happening. We've talked about it in another episode that are trying to, like, shut down things that we grew up with, or these standards or these ideals that we need to be X, Y, or Z. But I don't know. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon.
I say just march to the beat of your own drum and be okay with it. That's it. Anyways, you know what else I'm okay with? I'm okay with the fact that this is such an amazing conversation that it took us into dang near an hour's worth of podcast, which is awesome. But that also means that it is time for us to wrap it up. So with that said, you guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Yale, thank you so much again for coming right on back around to the podcast and having some amazing conversation with us. Val, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And
thank you. And thank you for everybody who's listening, supporting us. We appreciate you.
That's right. So yeah, we will see you guys next time for all the extra goodies. Make sure you find us on social media. I never ever end like that, but yes, find us on social media. You're Unpaid Therapist. And Yale, where are you on social media?
I'm on Instagram at Yael Tygiel. That's YAELTYGIEL. I also have a Bookstagram because I recently fell into a deep hole of romance novels. And so it's Good Little Library Mouse is my Bookstagram. And if you want to actually see my work, then check out the Electric Now app.
Hey, we will definitely do that. And if you guys want to check out extra goodies, be sure to find us on Patreon. And that is about it. Wrap! Bye, everybody.
Thank you.